Spain, Portugal, and Greece sell a remarkably similar retirement dream. Warm sea, old stone, long lunches, a pace of life that America stopped offering somewhere around 1970. But when you force the same $2,500 budget to pay for rent, healthcare, and legal residency, all at once, the three countries stop looking equal almost immediately. And one of them stops being an option at all. Here is what we are doing for the next 24 minutes. One American retiree. $2,500 a month, every month, and nothing else. We are going to put two comparable cities from each country side by side, run the identical spending categories through all three, and then check the thing that almost nobody checks until it is too late, which is whether you are actually allowed to stay. At today's exchange rate, and I am recording this in August 2026 with the euro at about $1.16, $2,500 is roughly 2,150 euros. Hold that number in your head, because it is going to decide this entire comparison in a way you are probably not expecting. First, let me explain the city pairs, because comparing Madrid to a Greek village would be dishonest, and it is exactly what most of these videos do. For Spain, we are looking at Valencia and Alicante. Both are Mediterranean coastal cities, both have real infrastructure, hospitals, airports and public transport, and both are substantially cheaper than Madrid or Barcelona without being villages. For Portugal, Braga and Coimbra. Both are historic university cities in the north and center, both have hospitals and rail connections, and critically, both are inland or near inland, which is where Portugal is still affordable in 2026. For Greece, Thessaloniki and Kalamata. Thessaloniki is Greece's second city, a real year-round urban center rather than a tourist island. Kalamata is a mid-sized coastal city in the Peloponnese with an airport and a hospital. These six cities are genuinely comparable. None of them is a capital, all of them are places a retiree could live year-round, and all of them have the infrastructure you need when you are 70 rather than 30. Let us start with housing, because it is the largest line in the budget and it is where the three countries have genuinely diverged. Spain first. Valencia has become one of the most talked about cities in Europe, and that popularity has a price. Rents in Valencia have risen sharply over the last several years, driven by a combination of domestic demand, tourism and a large influx of remote workers and retirees. A one-bedroom apartment in a decent central neighborhood is no longer the bargain it was in 2019. Alicante is the more affordable of the two and remains reasonable, particularly slightly back from the seafront. Portugal next, and this is where the story gets interesting. Lisbon and Porto have gone the same way as Valencia, only more so. Portuguese housing costs in the two big cities have risen to levels that genuinely strain a $2,500 budget. But Braga and Coimbra have not followed to anything like the same degree. You are still looking at real apartments, in real cities, with universities and hospitals, at a meaningful discount to the Spanish coast. Greece is the cheapest of the three on rent, and it is not particularly close. Thessaloniki rents remain low by Western European standards, and Kalamata is lower still. Greek property took an enormous hit during the debt crisis and, outside of Athens and the famous islands, has not recovered to Spanish or Portuguese levels. So on pure rent, the ranking is Greece cheapest, Portugal's interior cities second, Spain most expensive. Remember that, because it is about to stop mattering. Utilities. This is where a lot of people get an unpleasant surprise in all three countries. Southern European housing is famously badly insulated. Central heating is not standard in the way an American expects, and buildings are built to shed summer heat rather than hold winter warmth. In practice that means two things. Summer air conditioning costs money in Valencia, Alicante, Thessaloniki and Kalamata, all of which get genuinely hot. And winter heating costs money in Braga and Coimbra, which are wetter and colder than the postcard suggests. Electricity prices across all three countries are substantially higher than what Americans are used to paying. This is the single most underestimated line item for retirees moving to Southern Europe, and I would tell you to budget generously for it rather than optimistically. Food. All three countries are genuinely inexpensive for someone coming from the United States, and all three are exceptional. Fresh produce, fish, olive oil and wine cost a fraction of American prices. Eating out is affordable in a way that has disappeared in most of America. Greece is marginally the cheapest, Portugal close behind, Spain slightly more, but the differences here are small enough that they should not decide anything. Food is not the deciding factor. Do not let anyone tell you it is. Transportation without a car. This one matters enormously for a retiree, because there will come a year when you should not be driving. Spain wins this outright, and it is not a debate. Spain has the best rail network of the three by a wide margin, including high-speed rail connecting most major cities. Valencia has a metro, trams and extensive buses. Alicante has trams and good regional rail. Spain also has generous public transport discounts for older residents, which vary by region and are worth researching for the specific city you are considering. Portugal is decent. Braga and Coimbra are both walkable at their cores, intercity rail exists and works, though the network is thinner and slower than Spain's. Greece is the weakest. Thessaloniki finally opened its metro after one of the longest construction sagas in European history, and it is a genuine improvement. But Greek intercity rail is limited and has had well-publicized safety and reliability problems. Kalamata is a driving city. If you cannot drive, Greece narrows considerably. Healthcare. This is the category that should weigh heaviest for anyone over 60, and here the three countries separate clearly. Spain's public health system is genuinely excellent and consistently ranks among the best in the world for outcomes and access. As a legal resident you can access it, and Spain also has a well-developed private insurance market where policies cost a small fraction of American premiums. For a retiree, Spanish healthcare is close to a best-case scenario in Europe. Portugal's National Health Service is good, and available to registered residents. It is somewhat more strained than Spain's, with longer waits for non-urgent specialist care, particularly in the interior regions where fewer specialists practice. Private insurance is affordable and many retirees carry it alongside public access specifically to skip those queues. Greece's public system was hit extremely hard by a decade of austerity and has not fully recovered. Public hospitals in Thessaloniki are adequate and there are good private options in the major cities. But outside the big centers, and Kalamata counts as outside, the depth of specialist care is thinner. It is the weakest healthcare of the three and you should weight that accordingly. Now. Residency. And this is the section that changes the entire video. Everything I have said so far is about what things cost. None of it matters if you cannot legally live there. So let us take the three visa routes one at a time and measure them against our actual budget of $2,500 a month, which again is about €2,150. Portugal. The D7 visa, the passive income route, requires minimum passive income of about €920 per month as of January 2026, indexed to the Portuguese minimum wage. Pension income qualifies. Our retiree, at €2,150, clears that threshold by more than double. Portugal is comfortably available. Spain. The non-lucrative visa requires 400% of the Spanish IPREM index. For 2026 the IPREM is €600 per month, which puts the requirement at €2,400 per month, or €28,800 per year. At the August 2026 exchange rate, €2,400 is approximately $2,780. Our retiree has $2,500. They do not qualify. They miss it by roughly $280 a month. Let that land, because it is the single most important fact in this video. A retiree with $2,500 a month can afford to live in Alicante very comfortably. They cannot get the visa that would let them do it. Spain's non-lucrative visa threshold sits above our budget, and Spanish consulates are known for applying the financial requirement strictly rather than flexibly. Greece. The financially independent person visa requires a minimum of about €3,500 per month for a single applicant. At current rates that is roughly $4,050. Our retiree is not close. They would need to nearly double their income. So here is the honest scoreboard on residency. Of the three countries in this comparison, at $2,500 a month, exactly one of them will let you stay. Portugal. Greece is the cheapest place to live and has the highest bar to entry. That is not a contradiction, it is just how these two systems work, and they are set by completely different parts of the government with completely different goals. Cost of living is set by the market. Visa thresholds are set by policy. Nobody makes them agree. I want to head off the obvious objection, because you are thinking it right now. What about just going as a tourist? Americans get 90 days visa-free in the Schengen area within any 180-day period. That is not a retirement. That is a long vacation with a mandatory 90-day exile attached, and since the European Union's entry-exit system began recording biometric border crossings, the days of quietly overstaying are finished. The system counts. It does not forget, and it does not make exceptions for pleasant retired people. If you overstay, you risk entry bans across the entire bloc. So if Spain or Greece is genuinely where your heart is, the honest paths are these. Raise the qualifying income, whether by delaying Social Security to increase your benefit, by structuring a documented annuity or drawdown from retirement accounts that consulates will accept as stable passive income, or by applying as a couple where combined income clears the threshold with the lower dependent supplement. Or establish residency in Portugal first, live there the required years, and then reassess your mobility within the European Union later. Those are real strategies. Pretending the threshold does not apply to you is not. Let me also flag taxes, briefly and carefully, because this is where you need a professional and not a video. All three countries tax residents on worldwide income once you become tax resident, which generally happens after 183 days. The United States taxes its citizens on worldwide income no matter where they live, so you will be filing in two places. All three countries have tax treaties with the United States that are designed to prevent double taxation, and the treatment of Social Security, private pensions and government pensions differs between them and between treaties. Portugal's former non-habitual resident regime, which many older articles still reference, has been closed to new arrivals and replaced with a much narrower incentive that most retirees will not qualify for. Do not plan around it. I am not going to give you numbers here, because the right answer depends entirely on the composition of your income, and getting it wrong is expensive. Speak to a cross-border tax professional who handles U.S. expatriates before you move, not after. Let me put the actual monthly budget together for each country, so you can see where the $2,500 goes rather than just hearing that somewhere is cheap. Start with Portugal, in Braga or Coimbra, because it is the one you can actually get a visa for. Rent on a one-bedroom apartment in a decent central neighborhood is the largest line, and in these interior cities it is a fraction of what Lisbon commands. Utilities come next, and you should budget for that badly insulated housing I mentioned, with a winter heating spike between roughly November and March and a smaller summer cooling cost. Add a mobile phone and home internet, which are cheap and good across all three countries. Groceries for one person eating well, buying fresh, and shopping at markets rather than at the expensive supermarkets that cater to foreigners. Add eating out 2 or 3 times a week, which in Portugal is still genuinely affordable, including the daily lunch menus that remain one of the best value meals in Europe. Then transport, which in a walkable university city means a monthly transit pass and occasional intercity rail rather than any car costs at all. Then health, where you have a choice: register with the National Health Service and pay small co-payments, or add a private policy on top to skip specialist waits, which for someone in their 60s is a modest monthly premium by American standards but rises with age and typically excludes pre-existing conditions. Then the 2 lines people forget. A contingency reserve, because the boiler will fail and the dentist will find something. And an annual travel line for going home, because one round trip to the United States, spread across 12 months, is a real monthly cost, and pretending otherwise is how budgets break. Add all of that up in Braga or Coimbra and a careful single retiree lands meaningfully under $2,500, with genuine room to breathe. That margin is the whole point. A budget with no slack is not a plan. Now run the same categories in Spain, in Valencia, or Alicante. Rent is higher, and in Valencia noticeably so. Utilities are similar to slightly higher. Food is marginally more expensive but not dramatically. Transport is cheaper in practice because the public network is better and the senior discounts are real. Healthcare, if you have residency, is excellent and inexpensive. The total still fits inside $2,500 in Alicante, and is tighter but workable in Valencia away from the center. So Spain works on the money. Spain does not work on the visa. That is the entire Spanish story in this video, and I do not want it to get lost in the detail. And Greece, in Thessaloniki, or Kalamata. Rent is the lowest of the 3 by a clear margin. Utilities are the pain point, because Greek electricity is expensive and Greek summers now regularly deliver genuine heat waves that make air conditioning a health necessity rather than a comfort. Food is the cheapest here. Transport in Thessaloniki is now reasonable with the metro open. In Kalamata, budget for a car, which adds insurance, fuel, maintenance and eventually replacement, and which quietly adds several $100s a month that the rent savings were supposed to buy you. Greece leaves the most money left over at the end of the month. Greece also demands the highest income to be allowed to arrive. Both things are true at once. There is one more cost category that never appears in these comparisons, and it should. Bureaucracy. All 3 countries will take more of your first year than you expect. You will need documents from the United States apostilled, which means a state-level authentication, and then officially translated by a translator the destination country recognizes. Birth certificate. Marriage or divorce records. An FBI background check, which has its own processing time and its own apostille step. Proof of income in a format the consulate accepts, which usually means original bank statements and an award letter, not screenshots. Then, once you arrive, there is a second round. Registering with the local council. Getting a tax identification number, which you often need before you can open a bank account, rent an apartment or connect utilities. Registering with the health service. Exchanging or validating a driving license, which has different rules and deadlines in each country and which catches people out constantly. Spain has a reputation for the most demanding paperwork of the three, with appointment availability at some consulates and immigration offices being a genuine bottleneck. Portugal's system is more forgiving on requirements, but its immigration agency has had well-documented backlogs and appointment shortages. Greece is paperwork heavy and slower still outside the main cities. Budget money for this, because attorneys, translators and apostilles add up quickly. But more importantly, budget patience and time. Most people who give up and go home do not do it because the money ran out. They do it because the first year ground them down and they had not been warned that it would. Two more practical factors before we pick winners. Flights home. Spain is the best connected, with multiple direct routes to the United States from Madrid and Barcelona and easy domestic connections from Valencia and Alicante. Portugal is genuinely excellent for its size, with Lisbon and Porto both serving direct North American routes, and Braga and Coimbra within reasonable reach of Porto. Greece is the hardest, particularly from Kalamata, and typically means a connection through a Northern European hub. Everyday English. Portugal is the standout. English proficiency in Portugal is among the highest in Southern Europe, and Portuguese television has historically subtitled rather than dubbed foreign programming, which has had a real measurable effect. Greece is strong, especially in Thessaloniki and in anywhere touched by tourism. Spain is the weakest of the three for everyday English outside tourist zones, and Valencia adds Valencian alongside Castilian Spanish in official life. None of this excuses you from learning the language. All of it affects how hard your first year is. So who wins? 3 different answers, for 3 different priorities. Best overall value goes to Portugal, and specifically to Braga or Coimbra. This is not a close call once residency is included. Portugal is the only one of the 3 where a retiree both qualifies for the visa and lives comfortably on the remainder. The interior cities are genuinely affordable, the health service is accessible, English is widely spoken, and you get European Union residency with the mobility that eventually comes with it. It is not the cheapest rent on this list, and it is not the best infrastructure. It is the only complete answer. Best healthcare and infrastructure goes to Spain, unambiguously. The public health system, the rail network, the airports, the public transport within cities, the sheer competence of Spanish daily infrastructure, all of it is the best of the 3 and among the best anywhere. If you can clear €2,400 a month, Spain is arguably the strongest retirement destination in Europe. The barrier is not quality. The barrier is the entrance fee. Best slower coastal lifestyle goes to Greece, and to Kalamata specifically. The Peloponnese coast is beautiful, the pace is genuinely unhurried, the food is superb and the cost of daily life is the lowest here. But you need €3,500 a month to be allowed to live it, you need to be comfortable driving, and you need to accept the weakest healthcare of the 3. It is the most romantic option and the most demanding one. The pattern across all three is the same, and it is the thing I most want you to take away. In Southern Europe, affordability and access run in opposite directions. The cheaper the country is to live in, the higher the income bar it sets for letting you in. Greece is cheapest and hardest. Portugal is mid-priced and easiest. Spain is priciest to enter and, for the money, the best built. So work out your qualifying income first. Get a real number, documented the way a consulate wants to see it. Then and only then start looking at apartments. Doing it in the other order is how people spend a year falling in love with a city that was never going to let them stay. If this helped, subscribing genuinely makes a difference to whether we can keep making these. Now tell me in the comments. Spain, Portugal or Greece, if the monthly cost were nearly identical, which one would you choose, and what is the single factor that decides it for you? Healthcare, language, coastline, or getting home to see the grandchildren? I read these. And if the visa thresholds in this video were a problem for your budget, watch the comparison on retirement visas next, where we go through the routes Americans can actually qualify for in 2026 and exactly what income each one demands. This is educational information only, not financial, tax, medical, legal or immigration advice. Exchange rates and immigration rules change. Verify every figure with the official government source before you act.